Hello class, welcome to week 2. You made it through week 1. Congratulations, you did it. There were a lot of things to navigate, getting online to Canvas, making sure you have all the things you need to be successful, making sure you didn't purchase a textbook. We're also still shy on a couple people having fulfilled the week 1 course requirements. So please, if you're one of those people, you need to reach out to me and let's get things solved and help you so that you can be successful. In week 2, we're going to start going into the Middle Ages. The Middle Ages is a very large timeline. Unlike most of the other things, we're going to be talking about 1,000 years worth of musical history. It's a lot, and it's actually not that big of a chapter for us in the book. And our timeline is going to be very much kind of compressed in this chapter. So just be aware that the other chapters will focus on like 100 years or a much shorter time span, 50 years worth of time. But during this time period, the Middle Ages, there's not a lot of technological advancement. The most high-tech thing we have for music notation is things that are written down on paper. Oh my goodness, big deal, right? But before, in this early Middle Ages period of time, before Benedictine monks start notating music, we don't have any record. There's no way for us to know what that music sounded like. We know there was music, but there's no way for us to really identify what it sounded like. So we start with Gregorian chant. We talk about a lot of things, and like I said, this is 1,000 years of history. So I'm just trying to give you a brief overview of like what is happening. So in 455, Rome is sacked, right? This is a big deal. Rome had been the reigning power in the world for a long time, and now Rome falls, right? The sack of Rome happens in 455. We start seeing the Pope Gregory I, Gregory the Great. He's the leader of the Catholic Church. Charlemagne in 800 is crowned as the Holy Roman Emperor. This leads to all kinds of things in the historical timeline of this 1,000 years, is because later we find out that, there's multiple popes right now. Why? Because there's infighting inside of the Catholic Church. We start seeing the Crusades, right? In 1096-ish to 1099, we start seeing the Crusades happening, right? Magna Carta is signed. We see the 100-Year War happens in the 1300s, right? So in that 12th century, we see that start happening. And in the 13th century, we see the Black Death, right? The plague. I'm sure most people have heard of this, but this is when this happens. It's in 1300s, right? We see this happening, and a third of the population or something like that, or a fourth of the population that we know about dies off. The plague comes through and just kills everybody. Some of the things that are happening in the theological world, and as far as different people having new ideas, we start seeing the Aquinas Summa Theologica comes around, a whole new set of ideas. We see Dante's comedy, the Divine Comedy. We see Boccaccio's pieces, Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, or something that we see at the end of this timeline. And in the musical genre, we see early Gregorian chant come around, like 900. So we know it's happening earlier than that, but we start seeing notated Gregorian chant. We leave that, we go into Notre Dame school, starts writing things in metered time. So before that, music was just kind of felt. There was no clear distinction of exactly when things are supposed to happen. And the Notre Dame School of Music leads to a bunch of stuff, and we start seeing the New Art style in France, and all of these things come together. So these are some of the things that you should just be aware of. And during this unit, you're going to learn a couple things, and at the end of it, you should be able to explain how musicians were interacting as part of society. How were they viewed? Talk about how people were talking about music in this time period, right? In the elements of music thing, we talked about a bunch of stuff, right? And I let you kind of dissect your own music. Now we're going to listen specifically to some old medieval music, and you have to listen for what's the texture like? Is there a tempo? Interesting. What's the mood? Is there text? Is this a church text? Probably. The likelihood is high that most music with vocal text that people are singing words to are most of the time a church music experience. You're also going to be able to talk about polyphony and Palestrina and how it comes and stems from the Middle Ages Gregorian chant. Also, we're going to be talking about how in the 14th century there are some musical innovations like the New Art School, right? Ars Nova. And that's essentially what's going to be a part of this. It's just that 1,000 years of history smushed into one chapter. And this is just setting us up for a lot of other things because we're going to leave the Middle Ages pretty quick in week 3. And I just want you to be prepared. So make sure that during this unit, you are getting your discussion initial post up before Wednesday night, right? Wednesday night is kind of the cutoff. I was really lenient with it before, but I want you guys to make sure you take care of that so that you're respectful of everyone else's time in the class and people have a chance to respond to their peers by Friday. And that's typically how every week is going to be, okay? Just a heads up. All right, that's all I've got for week 2. Good luck, and I'll see you guys online.